Hey everybody. So, I don't believe in the concept of diversity. And I actually don't think that civic tech or digital campaigning should believe in the concept of diversity. And you may find that a little strange. Here I am, a woman of color, who's running a digital campaigning program for people of color, telling you that I do not believe in the concept of diversity. But let me explain what I mean when I say this. So back in the summer of 2010, I started working at MoveOn, and I was really excited to work at MoveOn. I'm still really thankful for the time that I had there. And I was excited because I was going to get the opportunity to work on huge, massive campaigns, learn how to code, and have some real impact. And so, if any of you are campaigners, you know what it's like. You spend every day G-chatting, you G-chat, you're on, well now you're on Slack. Back then it was conference calls and, endless email threads. So after 6 months of this, I finally got to go to my first MoveOn staff retreat. And I was really, really excited to walk into that room and meet my fellow colleagues who are the best and the brightest in the field. And so I walked into a room of 25, and there I was, the only woman of color, one of 2 people of color in the room. And here I was at the premier organization, progressive digital organization in the country, and it didn't even match the ratios of the country. And so looking around that room, I felt this familiar feeling. My throat tightened, my stomach started to churn, started crossing my arms across my chest. And it's that experience of being the only person of color in white spaces, the only woman in male spaces, the only queer or trans person in straight spaces. And so I started doing this math in my head. I started calculating. How many times was someone going to pass over me in a conversation? How many times would someone ask me to represent my race, my ethnicity, my gender? And when would I trade in those experiences for the ability to express my great strategic ideas about campaigning? And so this is what diversity looked like back at MoveOn. One woman of color in a room full of 25 people, and this was back in 2010, and I'm light skinned. You can laugh, it's true. I don't want to fill anyone's quota. I'm a woman of color, and I am the net roots. I want to be our leader. I want people of color to be our leaders. And sure, this desire to lead comes from the self-confidence that we're great campaigners, creative strategists, brilliant thinkers, amazing visionaries. You may know a few people of color who are amazing visionaries in digital, and overall badasses. But this isn't about what we deserve. This is about what we all want. We want to win. So I want to offer us a concept that is game-changing and that we absolutely need if we want to win. And that's equity. So some of you may be thinking, equity, diversity, it's semantics, but it isn't, it really isn't. And I'm here to tell you why. So diversity has nothing to do with leadership. And equity is all about changing the power structure. Equity is about clearing pathways for talented and brilliant people of color to step into true leadership. Equity is about transforming organizational policies, practices, and cultures that alienate people of color and get them out of the room and out of the organization. By creating equity in our organization, not just inclusion, we create the opportunity itself, Equity is about valuing perspective itself as a strategic insight. And I want to sit on this for just a second. Equity is about valuing perspective itself as a strategic insight. So let's get concrete. In recent years, the killing of unarmed Black people at the hands of the police has led to a vibrant, incredible, powerful freedom movement. Part of what made this movement possible was access to low barrier technologies like Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook that young Black people have used to organize and mobilize and bypass the gatekeepers of traditional media and social change. Young Black people started this movement with the biggest online movement without the biggest and oldest digital organizations. This is what happens when you put technology in the hands of young people of color. This is what happens when you remove the barriers not just to technology, but to leadership itself. We can even look to Silicon Valley, right, where a small group and growing group of people of color are taking to task the question of gender and racial equity and the impact that that's having on the ability to innovate on new technologies. So until we move away from a place of inclusion toward a place of equity, we're going to continue to see a revolving door, and I've seen it over and over and over again, a revolving door of talented, committed, smart people of color out of our organizations. So here's the moment when I'm going to shift from what's been going wrong to some solutions. But first, Arna Landrum and Daily Kos. Arna Landrum is a Kairos fellow. She's a campaigner with Daily Kos. She is a long-term community organizer, anti-oppression trainer, and writer. She's the newest member of the staff, and at a recent campaigns retreat, she walked right in there, she sat down, newest person on staff, person with the least digital experience in the room, and said, hey, I have a good idea about how we can innovate on our campaigns. How about we start approaching our campaigns from an intersectional lens? And so the campaigns team took that idea to the rest of the staff, they discussed it, and they garnered the support of the executive director. And so Daily Kos is now launching campaigns and moving narratives that center the most marginalized people. They did not sit there and worry about what their members would think or what their members would say. Instead, they knew their members' values, and they knew that by centering the most marginal, that they would be representing their members' values. We need more of this kind of campaigning. And DK doesn't buy the myth that there are no skilled, talented people of color to hire. They do know, though, that if we don't create opportunities for training, access, and leadership development, that there won't be a ready pool group of people of color to hire. And not only is Daily Kos investing in the leadership of people of color, but they're doubling down. They're doing the hard work of engaging in conversations about race, class, and gender in their multi-raced, multi-class, multi-gendered organization. These conversations are not easy. Sometimes they're hard. Sometimes they're even painful. And Daily Kos knows that the 6-month Kairos Fellowship is not enough time to wrap up that struggle around equity. They know that a year of investment is not enough time. They're in it for the long haul. And you know what? They're bringing their members along with them. So in addition to Daily Kos and my alma mater, Move On, there are 10 other organizations that are participating in the Kairos Fellowship. And this summer, Color of Change is training, yeah, that's right, some visionary leaders of color. And Color of Change is training 100 Black leaders as they launch their new platform, Organize For. But before I leave the stage, I want to brag a little bit about a few people I met earlier this year. And hopefully I won't cry, because every time I talk about them, I cry. So I met A.V. Smith Carrington. A.V. Smith Carrington grew up in New Jersey and recently moved from New Jersey to DC to join Planned Parenthood's campaigning staff as a digital campaigner. A.V. is responsible for Planned Parenthood's new Snapchat channel that is aimed at reaching younger audiences. A.V. also has amazing facial expressions. And so anytime you're in a room presenting in front of A.V., there they are telling you whether or not it's going well or it's failing. So I really wish A.V. were in the front row right now.
It's going great.
Thanks. I also want to bring into the room Mohammed Khan, who lives in Queens. Mohammed is the brilliant campaigner and mastermind behind, I love them so much, behind Empower Changes campaigning. He's a progressive American Muslim. He puts his life on the line every day fighting against Islamophobia and demagogues like Donald Trump. And then I also want to talk a little bit about Aram Ali. Aram lives in Brooklyn. She's a campaigner with Move On. Besides being a brilliant strategist, she is an incredible writer, and she writes these beautiful 3-line poems that she refashions for Facebook. And she cuts patriarchy and colonialism at the knees. These are the leaders we've been waiting for. These are the leaders we need. Remember, the biggest online movement happened without the biggest and oldest online organizations. People of color, women, trans and queer folks are on the move. Will you follow our leadership? Will you support our platforms? Will you join us for the win?